Good afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome to the Wednesday, July 8th, 2026 regular board meeting of the Savannah-Chatham County Public School System Board of Education. That's a lot to say. I'm very happy to see so many people here today. If we would all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and the National Anthem, which will be performed today by Mr. Julian Robinson. Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's hear it again for Julian Robinson. That was wonderful. Wonderful. Nice. Stop. I'll accept a motion to approve the agenda. Been moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you. All right, announcements. Where are they? They're not coming up. They're not coming up. Thank you. All right. Let's see here. Announcements. First of all, just wanted to announce that we've completed our mid-year evaluation of Dr. Watts, and it was favorable. Next, we have our board committee announcements. Please be advised that Mary Snowden has been appointed to serve on both the audit committee and the board accountability committee. Please be advised that Cornelia Hall has been appointed as chair of the board accountability committee. And our board millage rate public hearings, we had one this morning, we have one this evening at 6 p.m., and we have one next Wednesday, also at 6 p.m. here at Whitney. We have a back-to-school media event. We don't have the location.
Garrison.
I'm sorry? At Garrison School on the 7th, on this, I have it on the 15th. It says 15th. Okay. TBA. Okay. We have a special board meeting of recommended millage rate and final adoption on Wednesday, July 15th at 6:30 p.m. here at Whitney. First day of school, and I know you kids are so excited about this. First day of school is Monday, August 3rd. Okay, and I'm seeing all the parents are applauding. Our August board meeting is Wednesday, August 12th here at Whitney. And formal meeting starts at 10:30, executive at 12:30, and the regular board meeting at 2. Our capital improvement committee meeting is Wednesday, August 19th at 3:30 p.m., not 3:33. Our audit committee meeting is Thursday, August 27th at 8 a.m. here at Whitney. Our September board meeting, and note this, our September board meeting is an evening meeting. It will start informal at 3 p.m., executive at 4, and the regular meeting will start at 6 p.m. We'd love to see you here. Then our Labor Day holiday, okay, students, you'll like this part. The Labor Day holiday is on Monday, September 7th. No school, woohoo! In observance of Labor Day, all students, school staff, and district offices will be closed. Okay, and now our remembrances. Wow. Make that larger. I can't read it. There we go. First, we have Silas Herring, course teacher at Groves High School. Date of passing 6/13/2026. Linda Crone, bus driver at Georgetown K through 8. Date of passing 5/12/2026. And Natasha Holmes, program manager at the Learning Academy, date of passing 6/24/2026. If we would all please stand for a moment of silence. And now for good news, Dr. Watts.
Thank you. I'm excited to bring us calls for applause today for our July school board meeting. And the first headline is that we have received teacher retention data from the Georgia Department of Education, and it reflects meaningful progress. In 2023, our retention rate among teachers was about 81%. Since then, it has steadily increased to 84% in 2024, 87% in 2025, and now our retention rate amongst our teachers is about 89% in 2026. So that's about a 5% increase. Excited about that. These gains are not an accident. They're very intentional. They reflect a clear vision and a sustained focus on people. Behind every percentage point are teachers and staff who choose to stay, serve our students, and invest in the future of our school district. Thank you, thank you, thank you to the talent management team who certainly played a significant role in that work. And while we are talking about our HR and our talent team, I would like to also tip my hat to them for their recent recognition by the Georgia Association of School Personnel Administrators with 3 prestigious Best in Class awards for excellence in human capital management practices. The team received a Platinum Award for retention, a Gold Award for recruitment, and a Gold Award for technology advancements. That is a job well done. I'd also like to recognize and celebrate today Savannah Arts Academy Spanish teacher, Dr. Anna Zarita, who has been named the 2026 National Secondary Teacher of the Year by the American Association of Teachers of Spanish and Portuguese after earning Georgia's top honor in April. With more than 3 decades of excellence in language education, Dr. Zarita is recognized as a master teacher, curriculum leader, and innovator who inspires students through rigorous, culturally rich instruction. Beyond the classroom, she leads the Spanish Honor Society, organizes a student exchange program with Spain, and hosts annual events to strengthen cultural understanding and community connection. Her work truly exemplifies excellence in education and a global vision for student learning. Congratulations, Dr. Zarita. We will keep the applause going as we recognize the Savannah-Chatham County Public Schools District's Academic Intervention Specialist, Dr. Ronica Williams, who has been elected as President-elect for the Student Support Association for Georgia Educators. And this is a professional organization dedicated to educators working with student support teams and multi-tiered systems of support to support student success. The organization's mission is to enhance educator effectiveness and student competence by providing leadership through collaboration, professional learning, and advocacy. Great job, Dr. Williams. And finally, kudos to our communications team. They received 11 2026 Publications and Digital Media Excellence Awards from the National School Public Relations Association. Every entry that was submitted this year was recognized in some way. That included top prizes, the Award of Excellence in 4 categories: writing, our newsletter, video, and our video series, an Award of Merit in the website category, and 2 honorable mentions for our marketing materials. Our team competes against some of the largest school districts in the country. We are very, very proud of the work that they do for our students, our staff, our community, and stakeholders. And you can find all of these stories and many, many more on our website sccpss.com. Thank you.
So we are starting something very new today. We have moved our public appearance section into our regular meeting. And so instead of having to wait until the end of the meeting, we will now have our public be able to speak now. So we have some people signed up to speak today. First of all, we have Clara and Gloria Italiano.
Hello, my name is Clara Italiano,
And I'm Gloria Italiano.
and we are sophomores at Savannah Arts Academy. We are here to ask for a girls' basketball team at Savannah Arts.
We have been told there is not a team currently for two main reasons. One, our school's gym is not the right size, and two, Savannah Arts students aren't good at basketball.
We would like to share two reasons why having a basketball team at Savannah Arts is important and would be great for students like us. First, it would allow student athletes to participate in multiple sports. Since Savannah Arts doesn't have a team, we could play basketball for Groves, where we are zoned for. However, because of GHSA rules, if we were to play basketball for Groves, we would not be allowed to participate in any other sports at our own school. I am on the varsity soccer team at Savannah Arts, and I do not want to give that up. But if Savannah Arts had its own basketball team, I could do both.
Secondly, having a Savannah Arts basketball team would allow multi-activity students like us to more easily manage our school schedule with our basketball conflicts. For example, we are band majors, and when a band rehearsal conflicts with our homeschool basketball club team, we have to forfeit the basketball game. Otherwise, we will receive an unexcused absence and a 0 grade in music. However, when a band rehearsal conflicts with a Savannah Arts sport like soccer, we are allowed to communicate with our directors and coaches and alternate between activities without being penalized. If Savannah Arts had its own basketball team, we could participate in both without fear of compromising our grades.
Now for the two concerns mentioned earlier. First, the gym at Savannah Arts apparently is not regulation size. We would like to suggest we could use our school's gym for practice and then host games at another place. We recommend the Jenkins Athletic Club to start, and then the new East Side Gym at the PARC, which is expected to open in 2027.
Secondly, if Savannah Arts had a basketball team, it would start to attract student athletes who currently aren't considering our school for that reason.
For example, I have a teammate from my travel basketball team who was a choir major at Garrison. She also plays the trumpet and dances, but she didn't even consider Savannah Arts for high school because she wants to play basketball. We believe good basketball players will come when we have a team.
And already we have enough to start. We have included a list of 11 Savannah Arts girls so far who have said that they would try out for the girls' basketball team if we had one.
The sports that Savannah Arts does have are strong and competitive, but without basketball, we are missing opportunities to play all the sports we love. Please consider adding basketball to the list of sports at Savannah Arts. Thank you. Go Panthers!
Great job.
Love that. All right. Now we have Mrs. Angelisa Savage Bryant.
Good day, everyone. It's going to be a good day. I am excited to be here, and I'm so excited, Mr. Roger Moss, that you have included the public to come what? First, because all means all, right? My name again is Mrs. Angelisa Savage Bryant. I am a parent, taxpayer, and stakeholder. I am here to ask for accountability through timely written determinations and the consistent application of board policy, state law, and federal law. I filed a complaint with top leadership and waited approximately 120 days before being told I would have the opportunity to address my concerns to the board. It's been over my board members over 60 days. I am requesting, please, to come up with a timely decision, not any more delays. I'm still waiting for a written determination on my daughter's grade appeal. The teacher is no longer there. She was removed from the school, so who do I go to? I also requested to inspect FERPA education records, which you know that 45 days, if you out, that is against the federal government rules. It's just emails, so you should have a digital, some box where everything is in. I searched the website and could not find a process of explaining where parents may turn when they believe the board itself has not followed its adopted policies, timelines, or legal responsibility. Students, employees, administrators, and board members should be able to be upheld to the same standards of what? Accountability. Now today, I think I'm a little excited because I don't feel like I'm organized because Mr. Roger Moss, you have thrown me off because I don't have a timer. But guess what? I appreciate something that you said. You was talking about, your father said, if you're not in the room, you're on the menu. So I wanted to make sure that I come, and we need to work as a team because you was voted in as our president for 4 years. So we need to come together, Dr. Watts, all board members, and we need to work for our kids. We need to work for the stakeholders. We also need to work for the administrators and the teachers because you said only one person is accountable for all schools. Well, that can't, you are, Dr. Watts, accountable, but you need your team. Your team must follow the same rules. I thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right, Miss Lynette Haynes. Lynette Haynes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you all. All right, Mr. Hediger.
Thank you, Mr. Board President, Madam Superintendent, board officers, members of the board. We are moving into your board matters section of today's agenda. We do have several policies for the board's review. Item 7.01 as we move the agenda forward is board policy GARH, employee leaves and absences. You'll note this is coming to you as a mid-period review, and the reason that we're bringing this to the board is due to recent legislative changes, specifically under House Bill 1118 that provides for additional 3 weeks of paid maternal birth leave, and also Senate Bill 148, which extends accrued sick leave for personal use. We're currently in policy written by state law for 3 days. That is now extended to 5 days and is applicable as of July 1. So we are updating the policy in accordance with new state law. First read.
Any comment? Dr. Howard Hall.
I know the legislators made the change, but I recall some years ago when I served as a temporary guardianship of a newborn and a 2-year-old, and I didn't have any leave. I had a newborn baby. They had to find a daycare for that particular child. Now, I know it says foster care and adoption, but maybe they can really consider emergency temporary placement because I was in that bind as an educator, and I had to scramble to find someone to keep a newborn for me while I went to work.
Okay, thank you. We'll take that under consideration. Of course, we are quoting law from the State Law 45-20-23, but we'll certainly take a look at, take that under consideration and see if there's any leeway to extend the language in the policy.
Well, I think typically we have to follow law, but doesn't mean we can't be more inclusive, correct?
Right.
So we should be able to add that.
Where applicable,
addition,
yeah.
Right.
Where applicable. We'll put a legal eye on it.
Ms. Hall?
Is this just for the mother or for the, is it a parental?
This is parental, correct?
That was the leave we had earlier. We had, a couple years ago, we had the leave that would apply to a foster parent or a new parent. This is an addition to that leave. This is the leave granted for the person who actually experiences the birth of a child.
Oh.
So it's an addition to that leave that was added a couple years ago on the parental leave.
So we don't have paternal leave at all.
No, we have that as well. This is an addition to
Just
that
this
other
addition.
leave.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
Wanted to
thank
make
you.
sure. All right. Thank you. Continue.
Thank you. Moving on your agenda, item 7.02, Board Policy GAEB, Sexual Harassment of Employees. This is a 4-year review for the board. You'll note that there are no policy changes on this particular review that we noted. It all comes through the regulation. So what we're doing is we're bringing the regulation forward to the board. The board does not vote on regulation, but subject to your feedback, we'll determine if it needs to come back for a second review or if it's adopted formally under the 4-year review process. The main changes here is you'll see that we did add some clarifications on complaint processes and timelines, and also some clarity on the applicable timelines relative to sexual harassment grievance protocol, which of course is the policy code section here under GAEB, sexual harassment of employees. Again, only changes in the regulation.
Any comment? Ms. Campbell?
I had sent something out, and I've spoken to some of our legal today, but without reference to the regulation, just I guess the handbook that we give out, there was an allusion to microaggressions that made me a little concerned about the subjectivity with which we're presenting this. Any update on what the plan is for that language? Does it stay in the handbook? Are we removing it? Any thoughts?
Yeah, we've had some discussions about that. Some of the clarifications for the viewing public right now, that is an exhibit tied to this regulation. It's primarily administratively driven and to the point of the value of a handbook. So we're looking at what we can do to address those concerns and understand any concerns about subjectivity and not being to be very clear on what the stated consequences are in situations where someone may be having some inappropriate behavior. However, we do want to make very clear that the exhibit was also making an approach in the language to ensure under our responsibility to promote a quality work environment and a safe work environment and one that has an environment of good workplace culture. There's also clarifying language that was included in the exhibit that does speak to the fact that depending on what said activity was going on or frequency under what was stated as a microaggression, it could raise to a higher level of issue. But it did not change the standard of what the law was already written and also the citations of the EEOC. Saying all that, we are having discussions on what we can do to tweak that language in there. And Attorney Dennison and I have had some conversations as well, and I know you've spoken with Attorney Holliday as well. I don't know if Attorney Dennison would like to add any commentary.
Yeah, we definitely need to revisit the guide itself. And so I think those revisions need to happen. And I think when you talk about the language, the microaggression language, it is not it's not language that has really currency right now with the law. We don't want to create legal obligations and standards that aren't there, but at the same time, it's important to realize that small behaviors can add up to being harassing regardless of what we're calling them. So I think, relatively minor seeming behaviors that are repeated, we still need to address those in terms of how we talk about the language of describing that. I still think it's an important piece, but I think we do, to me, this isn't something that needs to really be within our board policy itself. I think it can still be referenced, just like our sexual harassment protocol is not within the policy itself. I think it does not necessarily have to live there, but it also needs to be something that you can see and be aware of. And there have been enough changes since its adoption that we need to go ahead and revisit it. I think one of the big pieces that we needed to do with this policy revision is to make sure we were not taking our eyes off the ball of all different forms of sexual discrimination and discrimination other than sexual harassment, because there was a sense that sexual harassment under Title IX was sort of taking up all of the oxygen. So this is kind of a reset to say there are other issues. We need a structure for handling that, knowing that that piece is still there. So that's the major emphasis here. But I think we have more work to do as we go back and revisit that guidance document of what to do, how to prevent harassment in the workplace.
Thank you. I think it's important that we be very comprehensive in our desire and ability to create a professional work environment, and I appreciate that that's what's happening here. I guess I worry a little bit about when we try with innovation and being able to escalate concerns that I wouldn't want anything chilled or sort of self-censored because we're worried about how it may get taken by reasonable people. So anyways, I really appreciate that insight.
Ms. Hall.
When a child tells someone that they have been abused in some way, there is a law that demands that that person look into the situation. Is there something that we know will hold the people who a person would respond to, the principal, or is there some way to know that it's not just cast off or put on the desk and forgotten or ignored or kicked down the road? Is there some sort of compelling reason that the principal knows this has been reported to me and I must do this or I am in jeopardy?
Our sexual harassment protocol under Title IX is going to require that all staff report that, and it's going to go to our Title IX coordinator, Doreen Oliver, ultimately for her to track and keep up with. She will coordinate her activities with the principal. But of course, there's also wider laws that protect children, which that report needs to happen in DFACS, a situation that may not be sexual harassment under Title IX, but still need to be reportable there. And there's also requirements now in terms of reporting bullying of all staff and acting there. So there's a lot of requirements that are there that are on the principals to respond to these scenarios, document, and follow up. But the Title IX process is very formalized, is tracked, is documented, and even if something doesn't qualify as sexual harassment under Title IX, under the definition that currently applies in this jurisdiction, we still, even if it doesn't meet that definition, it's still something we act upon because it can be concerning even if it's not, officially sexual harassment or Title IX. And that's what this policy in part is supposed to address, is there are broader concerns of discrimination and that need to be addressed even if it doesn't meet that particular definition.
Okay, and Mr. Dennison, what about on the other hand, if I am falsely accused, where it is a harassment that, of omission?
Yeah. Well, sometimes,
What happens then?
yeah, so sort of the irony of the Title IX sexual harassment protocol that we often deal with in terms of communicating with stakeholders is that protocol largely protects the due process rights of the accused. So that process initiates an investigation and then ultimately a sort of paper hearing process where we determine if that took place and that person has the ability to defend themselves. And unless the hearing officer determines, the decision maker determines that sexual harassment has taken place, we're not allowed to take disciplinary action, whether it's a student or a staff member, based on our current protocol, unless there's a finding that sexual harassment took place. Now, there can be other behaviors that can be disciplined besides sexual harassment as defined under Title IX, so that could become confusing. But with respect to, as defined there, before we take disciplinary action, that whole process actually gives the accused those rights under that process before we take that disciplinary action.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? So I do have a question. When I was reading through this, the example was the interview, and in the interview, the question was asked of the, I'm putting in air quotes, victim, what was your reaction? And that was a little off-putting to me. I mean, it was almost as if, well, did you tell them no? Or, I mean,
Are you referencing the exhibit?
yes.
Yes. So I think one of the challenges there, I think one of the pieces they're trying to communicate is you're not supposed to put words into people's mouths when you are, following up as to what happened if you're not a trained interviewer. And if actually with sexual harassment involving children, there's a process. It's supposed to go to a certain sense. We're not ultimately the ones that are supposed to conduct that forensic interview. Okay. So lots of times, I think maybe that's what that piece is, but we'll look at that, and if it's confusing, but I think it may be getting to that point of trying to say, these are the kind of questions you should ask without probing to the point of, putting information to people's heads or crossing the line in terms of starting to conduct a forensic interview. So that may be it, but I'm just guessing. I'd have to review.
So look into that. Thank you. Continue, Ms. Hediger.
Okay, thank you. We'll take all of that into consideration, and we'll determine if it needs to come back for a second reader. Based on the comments that we've heard so far, though, it sounds like the board is in agreement with the edits that were in the regulation. And if we had the authority to move forward to post those changes in the regulation, and then we'll provide an update to the board if there's any modifications to the exhibit, if that is agreeable. Okay, moving on to your agenda, we have item 7.03. This is a big policy matter that is going to affect all students of Savannah-Chatham County Public School System for the first day of school on August the 3rd. We're all very much aware that this policy was revised based on legal changes that came through that created that prohibited the use of personal electronic devices for students in K-8. We had appropriately adjusted our policy to be ready for the first day of school coming up in August, but in the recent legislative session, in alignment with, of course, that law, which was further extended now, which brings it into the high school area. And of course, that is HB 1009, Distraction-Free Education Act, that now extends the prohibition of personal electronic devices for grades 9 through 12, bell to bell. So we don't have any changes in policy. All of this action is taking place in the administrative regulation. So we're bringing it forward to the board for the board's review. And subject to your comments, we will move forward with posting these changes. But I do want to state and make very clear for our viewers out there and all families of Chatham County Public Schools that we are moving in full alignment with this legislative law, which did basically say that the extension of 9 through 12 in the prohibiting any personal electronic devices for students should be in place no later than the next school year. But remember, we're poised already with our policy to take action, and we are poised with our infrastructure to make this move. So we have made the determination that we can do this now and get in line, because we didn't want to have two different segments of the K-8 versus the 9-12, and with a law out there that could create more confusion. So with the no later than, we have accelerated that, and we are poised now to begin on August 3rd with this policy change that there would be no personal electronic devices for any student in our schools, bell to bell, subject to any of the exclusions in existing law. And that's what you see now amended in this policy based on the red line edits that were provided in your packets. This is a regulation.
Dr. Howard Hall.
Thank you. I'd just like to ask Dr. Watts and the team to just keep us abreast on how it's actually progressing in real time, to make sure that if we have to go back and revisit the regulations to tweak it, if need be, we'd like to know how it's going along throughout the year.
Ms. Grabowski.
Just to address the timing issue, even though we do have technically one more year, I do see the value in consistency across the district and reducing confusion, and let's just go ahead and do it all with one fell swoop. Have we, and this, I guess, kind of goes to Dr. Dr. Howard Hall's point of, like, rolling this out. I know we've already talked about it's going to take a lot of communication, and there are provisions, if I remember correctly, there are provisions in the law that if you have a medical device or some other documented need for your device, have we started thinking about how that application process that parents will go through to be able to receive that special permission, however that's...
Yeah, so this is, obviously it's a big shift for all of us, but again, our teams have been working extensively behind the scenes to come up with the rollout. The academic team has a guidance document for administrators that is being circulated. We do have an administrative team meeting in the next few weeks where we'll be in front of all of our building leaders to restate the process for managing this new requirement, and also for the nuances of those special situations, such as a child that has an IEP, for example, and how we will manage that. Those are in existing administrative guidance documents. And we did also last year, did a very nice job with the academic team where we did have a virtual session with families. That was primarily under the onus of the K-8 move, which was already in place. But that narrative is no change. The 912 extends the same exact requirements and provisions for the existing K-8 that was already adopted in policy. So what we're doing simply is echoing things that we have already stated. The communications team right now is in plans and has 2 video recordings set up with some building leaders where they can model what the experience will be like when a student comes to school and how they will check their phone in, whether it be in a locker or one of the pouches that we've provided and purchased, so that families will be able to see it in action. And we thought the best way to do that is to visually capture it and explain it. We do currently have a section on the Back to School Hub at sccpss.com where you can go for all your back to school information for school uniforms, bus route information, open house dates, and all the things that parents need to be ready for the first day. We also have a dedicated section there about cell phones. Now, we needed to do this first, was come to the board with a policy revision, and we'll be making updates to our website. And we'll also be doing planned parent notifications, call-outs, email blasts as well to get this word and this narrative going in the next 3 weeks. So we do have a lot of work to do, but definitely hear the concern about certain nuances on when cell phones would be allowed as opposed to the clear bell-to-bell prohibited personal electronic devices.
I'll just add, just for additional clarity, that part of what will be shared with our school leaders in their implementation toolkits will be some of the communication material that provides guidance to parents regarding those specific scenarios. And so we've provided school leaders in that guidance with various scenarios so that they know how to respond accordingly. So it will be site managed, but the guidance will provide that consistency to ensure that it's being applied across all schools in the same way.
And just,
Ms. Grabowski.
this is a really detailed nuance, but if a student like receives the permission from one school that they can bring their phone for an IEP or whatever reason, if they transfer to another school during the year, will they have to go back through that process again with the new administrator, or will that permission go with them to that new school?
Yeah, in all likelihood, that would probably be noted in their IEP, and so that will follow that student regardless of where they attend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hearing no further comments, moving along on your agenda, item 7.04, this is Board Policy BCAE, which is public hearings. And we did have one minor tweak which came at the recommendation of the board attorney. You'll see that item number 2 in the board policy, which is bringing it more in line with our current realities of the way business is done, making information publicly available on request. Information is primarily available on our district website electronically, but of course, if any constituent or stakeholder asked for a printed copy, we would provide that as appropriate. That is your only change. This is a policy revision, so it'll come back for a second read adoption in August. Moving along, same process under Board Policy BDA. This is the Board Policy Development System. And we do have one recommended change here. Again, that was coming to us from the board attorney. And what you'll see here is really simply the communication on extending all information when newly revised or deleted policies and how they are shared with staff. And what that is conducted, again, driving individuals primarily to our primary mode of communication, which is the board website. You're all familiar, we do through the communications team a very good job after board meetings are done. We do a board brief, which goes to all staff in the school system and the policy sections and all the reviews that the board does with policy, and any changes are included in that communication as well. But you'll see that this modification, again, just into current mode of business, into electronic and digital way, with driving it to our main mode of communication through the district's website. Again, this is a minor review under the policy. We'll come back for a second read adoption in August.
Thank you.
And finally, under your board agenda, we do have an action item for the board. This is Board Policy BA, Board Goals and Objectives. Normally, our second readers would go in the consent agenda. It was requested at the last meeting that when we bring this item back, that it be placed in the board matters for official awareness on what the changes were and a vote by the board. Previously, the board had reviewed this. This is where the literacy policy language sits, which again sets the tone for this board and future boards and future administrations to put literacy as a priority in any strategic plan or goals or objectives of the board going forward. That language has been previously reviewed and is included. The new language here was subject to the board's action at the last board meeting, where the new strategic plan, Unlimited Possibilities, was adopted. And we've gone through the board goals and objectives, and we've made the appropriate changes to align this policy section with the new strategic plan, Unlimited Possibilities. And you'll see that all the pillars have been updated and the appropriate components that are in alignment with that strategic plan that are now memorialized here in Board Policy BA. So this now comes in front of the board for the board's official adoption of this policy, and thus be it resolved that the board does now approve Board Policy BA, Goals and Objectives, under a second read.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Yes, Ms. Grabowski.
Thank you for bringing it back in the regular board meeting. I think this is really important because it reflects the same language as we have in our recently adopted strategic plan. So it's important for that to be very public and forward-facing. Thanks.
Dr. Howard Hall.
Just want to say how excited I am about this, and the goal is to ensure that our students receive appropriate support regardless of who is superintendent, who is sitting on the board, that regardless, the next 20 years from now, we do have a policy in place for literacy. So I'm excited, and thank you for working with us with getting that done.
Anyone else? And I will add that I'd like to thank Dr. Howard Hall for first alerting us to this and suggesting this. So we can call this the Dr. Howard Hall official policy. All right. There being no more discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And that concludes your board matters segment of today's agenda. Turning the agenda back to the board president for the consent agenda items and other matters of business.
All right. I will now accept a motion to approve our consent agenda. Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Hang on. Oh, he had to leave. He had to leave. Yeah, we did note he didn't. Yeah, okay. Okay, Mr. Ringman, you can come back in now. All right. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon.
Item number 10.01, RFP 24-18, Speech, Language Pathology and School Psychology Services Annual Contract, second renewal. On June 5th, 2024, the board approved the award of contracts to 8 vendors as listed on your item. Under RFP 24-18, School Language Pathology, Pathologist and School Psychologist Services Annual Contract. The initial contract period was for 1 year with the option to renew for 2 additional 1-year periods. Services are provided on an as-needed basis. On July 9th, 2025, the first contract renewal was awarded to 3 vendors. Staff recommends exercising the second 1-year renewal of the contract to the remaining awarded firms for the period of July 16, 2026 through July 15, 2027. The total annual contract is estimated at $1.2 million. The funding sources for these services will be various funds. Thus be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the board approve the second 1-year renewal of contracts issued under RFP 24-18, Speech, Language Pathology, and School Psychological Services Annual Contract to the 5 firms that are listed for an annual additional 1-year period for an estimated cost of $1.2 million. All terms and conditions of the initial contract will remain the same.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. Okay, I'm going to say this. Parents, if you're watching this, encourage your kids to go into speech pathology. I'm going to say it again. Encourage your kids to go into speech pathology. It is a wide open field and extremely, extremely needed. So, all right. There being no more discussion? I want more here. Okay. All right. There be more discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Continue.
Okay. Item number 11.01, our financials. The financials that were included in your packet this month included year-to-date through May 31st, 2025. These statements represent 92% of the fiscal year and 100% of the school year has elapsed. For the fund balance, general revenue, local property taxes are currently collected at 95.1% of budget, which is lower than this same time last year when we were at 99.7%. The total general fund actual revenues are at 93.7% of the modified budget. And that's also lower than the 97% we were at this same time last year. Total general fund actual expenditures are at 90.4% of the current budget compared to 85.3% of the same time last year. All of our other funds are outlined outlined in your packet. Do you have any questions on those? I can attempt to answer them for you.
Any questions? Thank you.
Item number 11.02, RFP 24-62, HVAC repair, replacement, installation, and preventive maintenance services annual contract, second renewal. On July 10th, 2024, the board approved the award of RFP 24-62, HVAC repair, replacement, installation, and preventive maintenance services for 4 vendors that are outlined and listed in your packet. On July 9th, 2025, the board approved the first renewal. Staff recommends exercising the second one-year renewal of the contract with the awarded vendors listed above for the contract period August 1st, 2026 through July 31st, 2027. The total estimated annual expenditure is $3.5 million. The funding sources for this contract would be general funds and funds 307 and 308. Thus be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the board approve the award of the second renewal of RFP 24-62 HVAC repair, replacement, installation, and preventive maintenance services annual contract as indicated. The estimated annual expenditure is $3,500,000.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion, Ms. Grabowski.
We spend so much money on air conditioning. It's insane. And I get it. I mean, it's like 100 degrees outside. Do we have a sense of how much of this is preventive maintenance versus, like, what steps are we taking to try and minimize, or, I mean, is there anything that we can do to try and reduce this? I know we just approved our technology controls, but anything that we're doing proactive.
So the technology controls is very proactive. The other piece that we're doing is the preventative maintenance, the severability, changing the filters, doing the inspections, and then unfortunately, it is just response. So we're working to first utilize the SCCPSS HVAC and maintenance team to go out first and to analyze and make sure what can we do to do a repair, to quickly respond. Ultimately, just because we have over 60 buildings and aging infrastructure in some of those, it's a never-ending battle, but we are, as much as possible, trying to be very preventative, very proactive, rather than reactive, because that makes our price escalate drastically.
I would just, and I know that y'all are doing a lot of work on the preventative side, but because this is such a significant expense, like, if there's ways that we can, track what equipment is working, because I know in the past we've had challenges with, like, just certain equipment just doesn't seem to work as well. If we can just do everything we can to try and minimize that cost, and also to look at, passive strategies that would reduce the load, from, shade trees to building siting, anything that we can do to try and get that cost down, because it's a big ticket item every year. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Hall?
Ms. Davidson, do we have any connection with state of Georgia, or say Georgia Power Grid executives, people who at that level could perhaps do things that would help waste, anything that could then trickle down to us, as opposed to us trying to deal with these, local vendors? What's happening at that larger level? What are they doing to try to keep the costs of electricity and that kind of thing down? Is there any conversation about that at all?
I have not had any conversation, Ms. Hall.
I know you. I know
about
at your.
that.
I know
Yes, ma'am.
you wouldn't. We would probably wouldn't. But it seems to me, we just had a big election, statewide election. I think for utility personnel. So I would think that it would not hurt us to try to find out what's going on at that level.
Absolutely, yes, ma'am. We will look into that and see how we can maximize the use of our voice for the board.
Yeah, because we paid them a lot of money. So, you know, at that level, besides these local vendors and stuff, the big money really goes to the top.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Grabowski?
Don't we have a performance contract with Georgia Power where they're doing audits of buildings to recognize energy savings and
We do,
so
yes,
forth?
ma'am.
Does
We
that
do.
include HVAC?
I'll have to go back and pull the particulars. I believe it does, but let me go back and confirm.
Okay. And, okay.
Ms. Hall?
I know people say, well, where is Connie coming from? But this morning I was listening to the governor of New Jersey, Mickey Sherrill, and she was talking about how at her level, at the governorship level, they called in all of the people who are responsible for the grids, and they saved $1 billion by some of the things they put in place that trickled on down to the local municipalities and people. So it hadn't dawned on me that we kind of spend our time complaining at this level, but where change could really happen would be at that level, at the top. And they said so much is wasteful, and things are put in place that are not checked and not made efficient. So that's where that's coming from. I know you're wondering where in the world did I come off on that tangent, but I did hear that this morning, and it made a lot of sense.
Yes, ma'am. And I'm tracking. One of the pieces with the automated management is an opportunity to set standard temperatures across the district. Sometimes we have been very lenient. And so just as we work with our staff across the systems to not open windows, to not adjust the HVAC equipment, that will help us in general as well.
There being no other discussion, all in favor? Wonderful, thank you.
Item number 11.03, East Plus 4, Hubert Middle School renovation, Samet Corporation, GMP, change order number 2. On February 19th, 2026, the board approved the award of RFP 26-03 CMR Services for the Hubert Middle School renovation project to Samet Corporation with a guaranteed maximum price amount of $17,171,793. GMP change order number 1 approved on May 6, 2026, increased the GMP to $18,707,293. Green Line Architects recently completed the issue of 4 construction documents which mainly address changes to the civic and landscape GMP bid documents as required for permitting. These changes include a large size and quantity of underground storm collection system and storm drainage improvements to alleviate flooding on the fields, additional concrete retaining walls and sidewalks, and added landscaping, planting, and lighting. The cost of this work, including general conditions and the CMR fee, is $1,026,822. This work is outside the original contract scope and will result in an increase to the GMP contract amount. The new GMP contract amount is fully funded and no budget transfer is needed. Staff have reviewed the GMP change order and recommend board approval, and the superintendent supports this recommendation. Thus be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the board approve GMP change order number 2 in the amount of $1,026,822 for RFP 26-03 CMR services for Hubert Middle School renovations to Samet Corporation for civil and landscaping additions for permitting approval and increase the total GMP to $19,734,115.
Moved? Oh. Moved, okay. And seconded? Now discussion? Yes, I'm sorry, Ms. Snowden.
Okay. Having worked in Hubert Middle School, it does flood. I am very glad to see that as we're doing the renovations, we are doing what we need to do to alleviate that problem totally.
Dr. Howard Hall.
Will fencing be included in the landscaping piece, or is already included prior to?
It's included, yeah, and we're looking as much as possible for natural fencing and greenery and other pieces where we can, to be mindful that we don't want it to look more like a industrial or giving a positive vibe, but fencing is included, yes, ma'am.
Ms. Grabowski.
Since it came up, and this might be a further discussion, but in the area where the modulars are going during construction that will then become more like the amphitheater park space out in front, which I think is going to be fantastic, it would be lovely if that could not be fenced. And that could really be a pleasant front door and a community asset for that neighborhood where green space is quite sorely lacking. So I would love to put that out there as a consideration for our team.
Ms. Hall.
We'll go back and look at that.
I'm trying to remember if we have an MOU between the board and capital projects that any fencing that goes up will not be chain link fencing unless, I'm not talking about ball fields and all, but I'm talking about any front entrances, any public facing thing, that there will not be any chain link fencing across the schools of Chatham County. Is that understanding in place?
That understanding is in place, yes, ma'am. The chain link fencing that we would put up may be in the rear of a school, but definitely
sure.
not in the front of
Right.
a school. We would go with more ornamental, other nicer looking fencing, any of
Okay.
our fencing.
I was mentioning to the board members that I rode by Jacob D. Smith yesterday and how beautiful, it looks like a brand-new school. And they were doing the fencing, and it's not, it looks like it's wrought iron. I'm sure it's not wrought iron, but it gives that impression, and it's just wonderful. So I'm hoping that anything that goes to Hubert will be duplicated. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Campbell.
Along the same lines as what my fellow board members have already said, I agree with Ms. Grabowski. I get very concerned. I understand why we do the fencing. I understand it has been a major topic of conversations, that we're trying to keep students safe, we're trying to keep bad things from getting in, but it's also sending a message about what we're afraid of in certain communities that I don't think is necessary. It also feels a little prison-like in some situations, like, it doesn't have to be chain link. Sometimes it just feels like when parents can't get in because it's locked down tight and they're just trying to get to their student, their child. I don't know. I wish we would sort of revisit some of the data on that maybe and look at, not just for the cost-saving benefits, but because of what we're saying when we fence in so tightly these schools that we want these kids to remain kids as long as possible. And if we're really keeping stuff out, or if some of the trouble is happening inside that we need to address too, right? So, thank you.
Ms. Hall.
Ms. Campbell, I became aware of this whole fencing thing when they put the chain link fence up at Myers. It's in my community, and it's an eyesore. But actually, certainly, if we would put the investment in landscaping so that, the front of the school looks. I don't feel that in many of our schools, we would need fencing. I was going to say, like Savannah Arts, it has fencing, but it's more around the parking lot. It's not at the entrance. Right. So we do have schools that don't have fencing. So if that were possible, you know, I think the community would welcome that. Would Ms. Snowden, do you agree?
Ms. Snowden?
I agree. We send a very negative message to the community when we place fencing all around our schools. I think if we work more toward developing a attitude of pride in what we're doing, I really like that Ms. Grabowski pointed out that to fence in the opening of Hubert would just, in my opinion, be kind of egregious. We want the community to understand that the school is there for the entire community and the success of everyone that's involved. So too much fencing is not a good idea.
Board of Education Police want to respond to any of these comments, but I think the fencing, that's where some of this is coming from, a safety and security standpoint, not necessarily our capital projects team.
Absolutely. I think when we talk about fencing, we have to take into consideration our layered security concept, and that's a part of it. Unfortunately, bad things happen to good people. We want to keep our children safe. And I would agree that if we can work with the landscaping piece of it to make the fencing a little more appeasing to the eye, that would be great. I would not recommend not having it, particularly in some of the schools that we have it at now. It's there for a reason.
So, I'm sorry, can you scroll back to the reason that we were doing this? Oh, 1103, yeah. Yes. Okay, so we have known about the flooding and everything at Hubert for a while. So I guess I'm questioning why on the front end we didn't budget for this.
So as we started getting further into the project, working with the city of Savannah, understanding they have deemed this to be a flood zone, and just making sure we heard some feedback from our board members to make sure that we double tapped the review to thoroughly address the flooding. That is why it has come back up, just to make sure everything was handled as it should be.
So I guess what I'm saying is, when we have these companies bid on these projects, I would hope that they would take all of this into consideration so we don't have to do these change orders. Just be up. You know what? If it's going to be 19 million, tell us up front it's 19 million. Don't tell us it's 15. And we're just going to do change orders, and we're going to get to what it's eventually going to be. So that is just a general comment. So if you're out there and you do work for us, tell us the truth up front. Ms. Grabowski.
I will say, sometimes that information, we don't know that until we get into the permitting process or until the modeling has been done, or there's, so sometimes it is, I agree with you 100%, absolutely, and we need to be mindful of it. But I also understand that a lot of times this information simply is not available until we get into the permitting process and understand that the need is greater than was initially anticipated. So I just want to be fair to everyone on in the realm.
It's about that. Ms. Snowden, then Dr. Howard Hall.
I just wanted to say that I agree with Mr. Moss, and in this case with Hubert Middle School, not knowing it was not the case. This flooding issue has always been a part of the Hubert Middle School. So whomever bidded on this project should have been aware of that problem and included it in the price of their bid.
Yes. Dr. Howard Hall.
Just pretty much going to say the same thing. When I taught summer school one year at Hubert, we were rescued in boats.
Right.
I drove in, but I was rowed out in a rowboat. So that was in the 90s. So it's been going on for a long time, the flooding at Hubert. So it's nothing new. And just to kind of go back to the fencing, when you pass by the Davis Edwards Harris School, there's a reason for that fence because it's on a major highway, Highway 21. So it just depends on the location when we consider fencing. Some people complain about it, but it was necessary to have that fence located there for safety.
All right. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Item number 11.04, East Splash 5, West Chatham School Design Contract Amendment, Hugsy, Gray, Bell, and DeLong International, Inc. On October 1st, 2025, the board awarded RFP C26-01, Design Professional Services for the West Chatham Schools Project to Hugsy, Gray, Bell, and DeYoung International, Inc. The contract award was divided into two phases. The first phase was a $300,000 lump sum and $30,000 reimbursable allowance for programming, and the board approved master plan for the site, including a schedule and construction budget or stated cost limitation, SCL. Upon the completion of the first phase, the design professional will be authorized to proceed with the second phase of design and construction administration for a fee of 4.75% of the SCL. Hugsy, Gay, Bell, and DeYoung International, Inc. has successfully completed the first phase of the contract and is ready to proceed with the design and construction administration for the project. A SCL of $186,951,000 has been established from the master plan, resulting in a design and construction administration fee of $8,880,173. A $100,000 reimbursable expense budget will also be added to the design fee to pay for invoiced reimbursable expenses allowed by the contract. Funding is in place for this phase of the design professional contract, and no budget transfer is required. Staff have reviewed the Phase 1 documents and recommend board approval to proceed with the design and construction administration phase of the contract, and the superintendent supports this recommendation. Thus be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the board approve Phase 1 of the contract for RFP C26-01, Design Professional Services for West Chatham Schools Project to Hugsy, Gay, Bell, and DeYoung International, Inc., and authorize the approval of the design and construction administration phase of the contract for lump sum fee of $8,880,173 and a $100,000 reimbursable expense budget, and authorize the superintendent to sign the amendment to the agreement between the owner and architect, AIA document B-133-2019, to amend the contract sum as prepared by the board attorney upon board approval.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Ms. Grabowski?
And this was a comment that I had submitted previously. I mean, it's not about this project per se, but this is what probably our largest capital project now, moving forward, which I think we're all excited about. But I feel like we haven't seen a single thing, not a single concept, piece of paper, anything about this project, at least not to my knowledge. If I'm missing something.
No,
let me-
I thought this was presented to us at board retreat. I'm
I
sorry.
mean, design. And I think that as stewards of these financial resources and we've talked about this some in CIC. Sorry that Mr. Katchmar isn't here as the CIC chair. Oh my gracious almighty. But we don't get we get pretty pictures and renderings about our projects, but we don't get a lot of information about what is actually happening. And I think the conversation about Hubert that we just had is an excellent example. The only reason that I knew that that little park was happening out front and that the fence was around it was because I asked to see the plans. Like, I feel like we need to be provided that information with these projects because it's a lot of money, and a conversation like that is directly relevant to policy. So I would just ask, and I know that the response was that the board will be updated. When? Like, at what point do we get updated? Because at some point, like, the horse has left the barn if there are major things. And I think the value of us as a board is we are a diverse group that will have different perspectives. And so I just think that we need to somehow or another, we've talked about the process, I feel like, for several years, but yet that process hasn't changed. So I just want to use this opportunity to, again, ask that we identify a way to better inform the board about the design part of the cap. And I realize it's kind of a special interest of mine, but it's something that I think all of us as board members, you know, it's important. And I've heard of other board members in the past saying, you know, ideas or suggestions or even legacy things that are special nuances to that school. Anyways, that's my little soapbox. I fully support moving forward with this project. And again, it's not about this project per se, but because this is a pretty big dollar amount, just would really love for us to identify what that process is going to look like in the future and how we can kind of make that a more regular occurrence.
I guess the question I have for clarity is, are you asking to be informed or are you asking for input?
I think to be informed primarily, but if there's somewhere that we feel like there's input to, and I think that's where I talk about the process, right? Because we've talked about in CIC, you know, does there need to be some sort of not necessarily a formal, I don't know exactly what it looks like, but I just think it's something that we need to discuss and figure out. We've all, you know, part of it also is we haven't seen the design guidelines that we've been talking about either.
Forever, yes.
So we have all this stuff out there that we just don't have the information about.
Yep.
So
Fair.
I just think we need to figure out what that looks like.
Thank you.
Okay, so everyone wants to talk on this. We're gonna start because Ms. Hall had her hand up first. So I know Ms. Hall had her hand up before Dr.
And
Ross.
my point is very quick, that we have discussed it at CIC, but we have not discussed it at CIC to that depth, and we need to. So I don't know when I think the next CIC meeting is in August. So definitely we'll make sure that this is on the agenda as a point of reference. So are you suggesting, Ms. Grabowski, that we hold off on this until that time, or just that at that meeting we would like to have some fundamentals answered?
Yeah, I mean, I know that there is a sensitive schedule to this project, so I'm not asking to delay it in any way. I'm simply saying, let's figure out what that process looks like.
We'll definitely make sure that in CIC in August, we elevate the opportunity. We're still in programming, so we don't have any schematic designs or anything like that yet, but we can make sure we begin to speak about the programming and when designs are available, pass those along.
Okay. Dr. Howard Hall, then Ms. Campbell, Dr. Ringman.
Okay, this is a great segue to question where are we with hiring the program manager, and whether or not the program manager will assist with this process, improve this process, because we've been waiting for that position that was, RFPs has been out there since March. So maybe that will help with this process once we hire a program manager. So where are we with that process?
The goal is to bring a program management recommendation to the board in August.
At the August 15th meeting.
That is the goal.
Okay.
August 12th.
August 12th. Wonder, that's even better. Etched in stone. All right. Okay, Ms. Campbell.
Okay, so I am very excited about this for obvious reasons, and I wanted to give a little shout out here to, before I say the rest, which will still be good, but to Ms. Davidson and the team. I really like that you guys have done meetings, like the virtual sit down, everyone's present, we see each other, we can ask questions. So I want to throw that out there, that I do think that's happening, and I think that's great, and I hope we do more of that, particularly as we go into this next phase that Ms. Grabowski is talking about. As a newer board member who has never had a school built in my district before, I'm sort of depending on them and my community, hearing from them, not just from Mayor Williams, but from my constituents and families around me, like, what is this going to be like? This is what we want. So to the question, I guess, is it input or do you just want details? I more lend to, I'll take the details because I want to be able to know what to communicate effectively and correctly to people without misspeaking. But also, I wouldn't mind maybe to have a little input, not calling up Hussey Gay Bell and saying, I thought we were going to have a porch on this, like nothing like that. But knowing programming, things like that, not for us to interfere, but at least to know, and hopefully when we have another virtual meeting, I could share some of what the community has told me that they want or need. And I know that it's not all up to the community. It's up to what, we're able to do and what we will assume liability for, et cetera. But it would also give me an opportunity to maybe meet with people in a way that says, what do you guys want? Because this is bigger than just the K-8 or a humongous draw from our East Bloss money. It's the first high school we've had in our district, and we've waited forever for it. So I would love for my constituents and my community, as well as the board, because being new as well, to have input. I would love to know that we're doing everything we can to make this right. Whatever that means, right? And if we're restricted in what we can input, I would totally understand. But going forward, I hope we have more meetings where it gets discussed, particularly programming. Like, I would love to know what the plan is. So,
Dr. Ringman?
We used to have some input. I mean, I had input on my project early on. And I don't know where that's changed. Maybe it's been less. It doesn't need to be all 9 of us. That would be ridiculous. But it at least needs to be a member of the board, or so that they can come back, so that we kind of keep each other accountable. I don't want to misspeak, but, we should be presented with, if Hussey Gay Bell or Samet or whoever, and they're all there, if whoever's on that thing is saying here or this or that, yes, we believe that the district's doing everything the way it should be done, but at least still pitch it to us. It sucks to find out when things change and you're the last to know. And people in the community know already because they already spoke to somebody on the construction team or on the design team because they know somebody, and they're like, "Oh, that's not happening." You're like, "Wait, that's supposed to happen." So yeah, I would suggest bringing in board member as soon as possible, as frequently as possible. Hopefully they don't become a nuisance. I understand that we can ask for the porch. I mean, I was asking for a drawbridge. Half jokingly, half not. It would have looked awesome.
For the nights.
Yes, for the nights, yes. But I think there needs to be that, and it also, I think, will help the community know that early on we aren't just coming with, and here's what it's going to look like. Now tell us how you feel about that. Because sometimes it feels that way. Even though the buildings look great when they bring them, it's just... Yeah, I think a little, because you probably already have been told certain things. Yeah. And I had already been told certain things about Windsor when I met with y'all, gosh, in Duren a long time ago. So I think that early input would definitely be helpful, especially on such a massive, massive project.
Ms. Snowden?
In answer to the superintendent's question, I wanted to say that I agree with both information and input, because I think input from the community and the representatives from their district will also go a long way to have the community buy into the positivity of the school and their community, and have they'll be better stakeholders and stewards themselves of the schools in their community. I think that would go a long way.
Ms. Hall?
Tying this in with Hubert, in the gap between the time Dr. Hoskins Brown left us and Ms. Snowden came on board, I've been trying to stay involved. And I think the reason that I didn't have more questions about Hubert was because I saw that it was Samet, and because the fabulous job they did at Formy, I felt, oh, okay, we're putting this in good hands. But that school also, it would be wonderful now for you to for them to reach out to you, to bring you in, to include you on what's going on and what to expect and what your ideas, especially since you used to teach there, what your ideas might be about it. So this was a good conversation.
Dr. Howard Hall?
Yes, I have three municipalities in my district. Of course, I have Bloomingdale, Port Wentworth, Garden City, and Savannah. And I've gotten calls from several councilwomen, men in Garden City asking, what's going on at Mercer? So I'm not sure if there's a disconnect with the city manager of those smaller municipalities, because several councilmen have called to ask me what's going on at Mercer, and I took for granted that they knew as part of the whole deal that started probably about 8 years ago. So I noticed that the mayor of Pooler is very actively engaged, and the city manager. So I don't know what we need to do about that, whether or not they can request someone to come to a city council meeting and perhaps talk about what's going on with Mercer as far as it being the alternatives programs there in Skeela, with just a thought.
So the feedback is consistent, and I think I've heard and I understand the message from everyone, and I've just sent Megan a text message that says, please adhere to what you are hearing. I do believe there is something also in our strategic plan that addresses the level of communication that we need to provide. And we need it to be not just on Megan's team. They're not communication specialists, right? They are over buildings and how to construct buildings. They're not communication people, but we do have a small and mighty communication team that is also very stretched. They could lean in support. And we need our principals to also be more supportive when it comes to getting feedback and hosting events. It has to be a collective thing. We can't just look at Megan's team, the operations team, and say, now you all, on top of delivering buildings, you need to be communication specialists. So we will have a strategy for the upcoming year. We've talked about it some internally, which is why we started the little small group meetings this year, but we will have a more well thought out plan. Thank you for your feedback.
Dr. Brinkman?
And I do not want it to be here are 5 dates, when can you meet? It needs to be on us, our onus, that the builders, the designers are meeting with district staff to discuss this. You're welcome to come. That type. It does not need to be, when are you able? Because then we're going to I don't want us to be a slowdown of the process. Yes, I do, and that's why.
Is that all of this input is going to slow the whole boat down?
Yeah.
We'll be in feedback.
No.
Forever.
So, and that's on us to make it, and that's easier for some board members than others, because some are retired and some don't work as much as others at certain times of the year. So
And I just wanted I did want to clarify, so this is just the initial piece, right? So like with Hubert, we had the community meeting with the designs. We got feedback from the community, from the board member at the time, from the staff and the school first, so that the teachers and the staff could give feedback. That is part of our process. This is just to get us started so we can get the drawings, to then sit down and talk through with the community, with the board members, to say, here's what it potentially could look like. Here's what we put in the building. Here's what CTAE offerings have been elevated to be in the space. So this is just the very initial piece. I think everybody's so excited and we're ready to move. This is just the very beginning. So that we can have the drawings.
The meeting what I'm envisioning is exactly what happened to Windsor, and we sat down. It was a Hussey Gay Bell project with operations staff, but also they had already spoken with CTAE saying these are some of the programs we're thinking about adding to the school. What do you think? What do you think the community would think about these programs if they were added to the school? What are some of the driving things that need to be changed in any new building? So those type of discussions before they ever hop in their computer and start throwing lines down. And the my discussion was, we're in a really tight space. This is, there was a lot of discussion before they even designed anything about how it was going to happen. That would be kind of the conversation on the Hubert, kind of your conversation. And we have had a lot of conversations about all the fun that y'all are having out southwest with that large plot of land. But I think it's just one more little, and we're going to meet. You're welcome to be there. And then that person can make sure when we're at CIC, everybody can look to that person. Were you able to go? What was the info? Yeah.
Okay, Ms. Grabowski, then Ms. Campbell.
Well, and that's why I go back to it's a process, that we define the process. So that way, everybody has the same expectation when we will see the information, what information we will see, what the window is, provide inputs, like you got input, we need it by this date, and then to Dr. Brinkman's point, we don't do it, shame on us. But if I read the agenda correctly, and maybe I'm misreading this, the first phase, which was already authorized, included programming and master plan for the site. So is that master plan complete? Is the conceptual master plan for the site
Yes.
complete?
Yes.
So that would be fabulous to see. Like, that's milestones like that, like you'll see the conceptual master plan, you'll see the schematic, you'll see the programming, you'll see the schematic design. Like, those milestones, there's no reason we can't embed that into a process where the board then has, and again, once we get the program manager on board, hopefully that will include some sort of an outward-facing dashboard where city council or community members or whatever else can see what's happening and take that burden, because I don't want to burden any of our teams with that. There's no reason we can't be proactive, make the information available. And I don't want this to be misunderstood as we need to be like picking paint colors or getting into the weeds, because that is not our lane and it doesn't need to be. And we need to make it also really clear where we have discretion and where we don't. Because that's the other thing, is we don't need to have one school that the community feels like they get to design the whole thing and the other school's like, this is what you get. So it's a slippery slope, and I understand there's not a perfect solution, but I think the process is the most important part of this, so we know what those milestones are and where those opportunities exist.
Ms. Campbell, then Ms. Hall.
100%. What Ms. Grabowski just said. If you give us a process, it doesn't really matter what happened in the past, if we feel slighted or like we get better or whatever it is, it's just the process now going forward. But I do want to put out there, based on what Dr. Brinkman said, was that this is just me, I'll speak for me, I know other board members have different schedules, but I don't need to be included in when the timing happens. I feel okay with just you saying, hey, there's a meeting, here's your lane, this is what's expected, where I can at least show up. And then if I don't know and I miss the meeting, I can just email someone, not blow up their phone or text and all of that, but just say, hey, what did I miss? What got discussed that I need to cover? But it's on me, like Dr. Brinkman said, the onus is on me to show up when there's a meeting happening, and it's at the architect, the builder, our team's discretion. I just get to come along for the ride if I'm able, but then it's what we're willing to invest and put into it, because this is a really big deal for my community, and I would love to know what to tell them with these big pieces of the plan as it rolls out, and to be able to share, even if I can at least in good conscience say, hey, listen, I floated your idea that this whole community has been telling me, and this is why it won't work. Because I think most people know I'll stand 10 toes down on something that I know is not reasonable, even if I know it's not what someone wants to hear. But I just need to be given that opportunity, so.
Ms. Hall?
Hey, just very quickly, it sounds like we're thinking that we're just starting this project. We're not. We already gave them $300,000, am I right? That's already been done. So we're acting like, we're getting ready to launch this tomorrow. This started back in October of '25. So at this point, it's like we're kind of catching up. So I just need everybody to be aware of this. Don't think that this is something that's just beginning. They're already through with phase 1. They're getting ready to go into phase 2. So we have to hurry up and get on the train for phase 2. But phase 1 is over. Okay, I just want to make sure everybody realizes that.
Any other discussion? There being none, all in favor? Wonderful. Thank you.
Item number 11.05, bid 26-05, school nutrition, paper products and supplies, annual contract extension. On November 5th, 2025, the board approved the award of bid 26-05, school nutrition, paper products and supplies to 11 vendors that are listed in your packet. The intent of the bid was to select qualified vendors to provide paper products and supplies for the district's school nutrition program. The performance period was for an initial 12-month period with an option to renew for 2 additional 12-month periods. School Nutrition desires to modify this contract for alignment with the fiscal year cycle and request a contract extension for the initial contract term for an estimated additional cost of $921,905 during this contract extension period. The contract extension term is July 1, 2026 through June 30th, 2027, with 2 additional 1-year renewals remaining. The funding source for this contract will be school nutrition funds, Fund 600. Thus be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the board approve the contract extension as described for the initial term for bid 26-05 school nutrition, paper products and supplies annual contract for the term July 1, 2026 through June 30th, 2027 for an estimated annual term cost of $921,905.
It's been moved. Seconded. Discussion. Ms. Grabowski, you don't even have to raise your hand.
Well, we got to be here till 6 o'clock anyway, so. All right, y'all. I want you to look not at only what we're being asked to approve, but at the total. Almost $1.9 million in plastic and paper stuff that gets thrown away. And I know it's the way that districts do it now because we don't have to have dishwashers and we don't have to have people. It doesn't mean that's the responsible way to do this. I would really love, and I know that I've already heard from the team that they will evaluate going back to old school because landfills are filling up. When they fill up, they have to expand. That costs an awful lot of money. Guess who pays for it? Us. So this doesn't even include the disposal fee and all the other things. And really at the end of the day, I just think it is a horrible practice to model for our students. I just don't think it is demonstrating stewardship or responsibility or care for for our resources. And it's also not healthy for our students to be eating off of styrofoam and plastics. We know that those plastics get into food. When you put hot food on a styrofoam plate, the plastics go in the food. We know this. We know it takes oil to make these products. And I hope that as we explore opportunities, we can at least first transition away from styrofoam and plastics. Would love for us to get to compostables. I know they're more expensive. I don't know if that's too much of a stretch. There are districts that have full-blown composting programs for food and their products. I just think that this is an opportunity for us to be more responsible stewards and teachers for our students and our community, that we can instill an ethic of stewardship and responsibility in a better way. So, thank you.
Dr. Howard Hall?
Have we ever considered piloting to see if a school might want to volunteer, or maybe a few schools, they may volunteer, for example, a grade level using the reusable dishware, or certain days of the week using the reusable dishware, and they can track the cost, they can track the cleaning time, they can get student feedback, and they can also track on, the number of items that were damaged or lost, just to get an idea to start the process, because maybe some schools might be interested in going back to the reusable dishware. It's just a thought to pilot a small group to see how that goes. At least we'll have data to see the advantages and disadvantages of the dishware versus disposables.
Snowden?
That really was along the lines of what I was going to say. What can we do, or how can we get back to, or more specifically, away from paper and plastic products? Because in my opinion, whatever is spent is just going straight to the landfills. It's throwing money away. I know we have to feed our children, but is this the only way that we can do it? So I think we do need to look at alternatives. I know we won't be able to do this in a hurry, but I think it is something that we should explore researching.
Anyone else? Dr. Bringman?
I was feeling Dr. Grabowski over there. Doctor, yeah, of Green. Doctor of Green.
Dr. Green.
Dr. Green. I know our schools have to have commercial dishwashers for some of the stuff they prepare food with. They don't. We don't even have commercial dishwashers for,
No, sir.
what are we?
You hand wash, and you have to have particular chemicals in the water to wash.
Yep. They got the three big, holy cow, they're hand washing.
That's insane.
Their big trays and stuff like that. So, okay. So that's right. They've already said everything about paper, so I was just trying to do the cost-benefit analysis on what does it look like to put in a commercial dishwasher station in 50-plus buildings and a staff and plates and cups and knives. Yeah, so, okay. Well, it sounds like somebody already asked you to do an analysis, so I'll await that cost-benefit ratio, but I can probably already say we'll just approve a budget amendment like we do every year to fund 600.
Mr. Smith, did you have something to say?
There's feedback, I think, that's happening.
Okay.
No, I did not. Sorry about that.
All right, no worries.
So this is my last thing, I promise. And I don't even know that it's going to be cost benefit. I mean, I don't know that the costs are going to be lower that way, but I'd rather put my money in people than plastic. And, I'd rather hire a couple dishwashers and pay them at the schools and putting the money into that. But, and yeah, I think it's something that has to be over time. No, I'm just saying, just adding. But it's not just about the cost, it's about more. Anyways, all right, enough of that. Thank you. There you go. I like it.
Yes. All right. Any other discussion? This is a tough one. All in favor?
Aye.
We've got to do something for August 3rd.
Please, sir, can I have some more?
Okay, let me call this again. All in favor?
Kids will have something to eat.
I'm a no. Yeah, fine.
I'll feed the children. You didn't say all opposed.
I'm sorry, all opposed.
Y'all knew how I was going to vote on this.
I would like us to look into how we can more ethically handle the situation with recyclables or whatever. It's not all the time that Ms. Grabowski and I are on the same page, but we're kind of on the same page on this one. But let's at least research. Let's see what other districts are doing and how we can be more ecologically responsible. All right, continue. Yes.
I'd like to ask, just as we said that Ms. Davidson's team is not made up of communication experts, who's to do all this research? Do you have,
Dr. Watson,
who's on your team, who's available, because from what I see, your tongues are hanging out all the time. You're
I do
tired.
appreciate you asking that question, and that is the challenge when we hear cut people, cut all the things, and then at the same time, we're being asked to do new things and more things. And that is the balance that we're trying to walk down. For somebody to do a whole study on styrofoam versus that is going to require a dedicated time, hours, and people to do that. So again, those are just considerations I ask for everybody to have top of
And
mind.
I know us, we'll be asking you August 15th.
Yeah,
What have you found out so far? So.
Ms. Grabowski?
Well, I'll just say, and I've mentioned this to the superintendent before, I would love for us to have a sustainable purchasing policy. If we had a sustainable purchasing policy, we would not buy styrofoam. It would be taken care of because it would be addressed through policy by the board. So that would, it's not going to get us all the things that we're asking to do. And I certainly have no expectation of that happening overnight because I know it is a long-term thing and it would be a long-term thing to implement. But there are ways through policy that we as a board,
Yes.
if that's a priority, it's up to us.
All right, continue.
Item number 11.06, RFP 26-07, Enterprise Document Management System, EDMS, and this is an eSPLOS project. The purchasing department received 15 proposals in response to RFP 26-07, Enterprise Document Management System, EDMS. The intent of the solicitation is to establish qualified firms for contracted service to provide software and assistance in the implementation and deployment of a district-wide enterprise document management system. Services begin with an initial overhaul, scan, and digitalization of all student records and continue with an initial annual contract period for EDMS solution. The proposals were evaluated based on company experience and qualifications, functionality, and technical approach and costs. Vendors who scored at least 90 points for the technical evaluation were shortlisted. Vendors, there were 3 vendors that were shortlisted. Staff recommended that this proposal be awarded to Harvest Technological Group, Inc., with an initial estimated cost of $1,815,877 for the initial overhaul scan of student records and an estimated annual cost of $282,875 for the first annual EDMS solution, for a total estimate of $2,195,752. The performance period for this contract is for an initial 1-year period with the option to renew for 2 additional 1-year terms. The funding source for this contract is eSPLOST funds. Thus be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the board approve the award of RFP 26-07 Enterprise Document Management System to Harvest Technology Group, Inc., for the initial annual estimated amount of $2,195,752 to scan and digitize student records for the district. The contract shall be for an initial 1-year term with options to renew for 2 additional 1-year periods.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Ms. Campbell?
So, question here. Is this solely to digitize the thousands of records that we have currently paper copies, or is this, do we need this going, I guess, this year after year sort of thing?
The total cost of this includes the 10,000 boxes we have behind us here. That's for the 1 year. The continual cost will be for the actual software. Does that answer your question?
Yes,
Okay.
so meaning like the bulk of this cost would be upfront heavy, and
Yes.
then as we begin to, I guess, what am I trying to say? Yes, like, yeah, so we give people, we automatically make it digital in whatever format we need to versus doing it on the back end. Okay.
Correct.
Right now, we're trying to get out of this building so that we can make options available, and we have over 10,000 boxes.
I love that for us.
Paper documents, and we've gone through this with 208 Bull Street. We are moving to a more modernized system. Yes, it will be price heavy on the front, but more efficient on the back.
That's much easier to support. I think that's great, and we have to do it at some point. And if we can have someone help us, it's going to shock everyone, but that's some money I think is well spent, because then we can at least get on the right track and not have to keep buildings for the sake of their storage abilities.
All right. All in favor? Mr. Smith?
He's like, I'm out.
I am in favor. I am in favor.
Thank you, thank you. Next.
Item number 11.07, bid C 26-09, furniture, fixtures, and equipment with ancillary services annual contract. The purchasing department received 5 bids in response to bid C 26-09, furniture, fixtures, and equipment with ancillary services annual contract. The intent of this solicitation was to establish fixed pricing for furniture, fixtures, and equipment items and related ancillary services to support district-wide furniture projects. Quantities of one were utilized for evaluation purposes only to establish pricing and identify the lowest responsive and responsible bidder for specific items and item categories. The aggregate value of the evaluated and awarded items is approximately $635,500 and was used solely for bid evaluation and award purposes. The performance period for this contract is for an initial one-year period with the option of renewal for 2 additional one-year terms. The awarded vendors will serve as approved sources for FF&E purchases on an as-needed basis during the contract term. The district evaluates existing furniture at each location to determine whether items can be repurposed prior to purchasing new furnishings. Based on current capital improvement plans and available funds, the district anticipates utilizing these contracts for furniture purposes associated with approximately 6 school projects during fiscal year 26-27, with total expenditures not to exceed the approved furniture project budget of $15 million. Staff recommends that the bid be awarded to trying to decide whether you want me to read these. Staff recommends that the bid be awarded to Georgia Specialty Equipment, Mason Inc., School Outfitters, and VIP Office Furniture and Supply. The award establishes fixed pricing for furniture, fixture, and equipment to purchase on an as-needed basis during the contract term. Based on current capital improvement plans and available funding, the district anticipates utilizing these contracts for furniture purchases associated with multiple school projects, with total expenditures not to exceed the approved project budget of $15 million. The funding source for this contract is ESPLOS 5 and general funds. Thus be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the board approve contracts with the vendors that were listed. The contracts establish fixed pricing for awarded FF&E items and categories and shall serve as the district's approved source for furniture purchases made on an as-needed basis during the contract term. Purchases under these contracts shall be made on an as-needed basis and shall not exceed the approved fiscal 26-27 furniture project budget of $15 million. Any individual purchase exceeding $100,000 shall be presented for board for approval. The performance period for this contract is an initial one-year term with the option to renew for 2 additional one-year terms.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Dr. Howard Hall.
I just have a question about the items categories. Could somebody give an example of the different categories? I do know that VIP, they sell office furniture. So when you're talking about the different categories, how, could you just
Yes,
give me
ma'am.
some
So we have
examples?
several different categories, like, as you mentioned, office furniture, the desks, the chairs, then the student furniture. Then there is more comfortable furniture for students that you would find in counseling areas and media centers. There's rugs, and it just expands beyond that.
Any other discussion? Ms. Hall?
Always happy to see that we have a local vendor included. I understand that sometimes we have to go out of county, but I'm happy to see that we have at least one Savannah, Georgia company. I always say, suppose something breaks down, and if our manufacturer is in Ohio, how does that get done? So I'm glad to see that we have a local person.
Anyone else? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Wonderful. Any opposed? No. Great.
Item number 11.08, budget amendment and operating transfer school nutrition program. Approval is requested for an operating transfer from the general fund balance, Fund 100, to the School Nutrition Program, Fund 600, in the amount of $1,600,000 to address the School Nutrition Program operating deficit for school year 2025-2026. The School Nutrition Program is a federally supported enterprise fund that relies primarily on federal reimbursements, meal participation, and related program revenues to support daily operations. During school year 2025-26, the program experienced increased operating costs, including food, labor, supplies, equipment, and other required service delivery expenses. These cost pressures, combined with programmatic and operating factors impacting revenue, resulted in an operating deficit requiring support from the general fund. Based on the current fund review, the administration recommends transferring $1.6 million from the general fund balance, Fund 100, to School Nutrition Program, Fund 600, to support School Nutrition Program deficit for school year 25-26. The amount is recommended to provide operating stability and preserve a responsible fund balance for the program. The proposed transfer will support continued meal services operations, require program obligations, and financial stability while the district continues to implement operational efficiencies, staffing alignment, participation improvement, and revenue recovery strategies. The summary of the budget adjustment is outlined on your item. Thus be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the board approve an operating transfer in the amount of $1,600,000 from the general fund balance, Fund 100, to the School Nutrition Program, Fund 600, for school year 25-26, along with the corresponding budget amendment.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Item number 11.09, budget amendment, general fund, Georgia Power utility costs. Administration recommends approval of a budget amendment in the amount of $2 million to provide additional funding for utility expenditures associated with Georgia Power for fiscal year 26. The fiscal year 26 budget for utility services have proven insufficient to meet actual expenditures associated with electricity provided by Georgia Power. Throughout the fiscal year, the district has experienced utility costs that exceeded original budget projections due to increased energy consumption, higher than anticipated electricity rates, and continued operation of district facilities. Approval of this request will increase the fiscal 26 utilities budget by $2 million. Funding will be provided through available fund balance. The budget transfer amendment is listed on your item. Thus be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the board approve the requested budget amendment to provide additional funding for utility expenditures in the amount of $2 million from the general fund use of fund balance for school year 2025-2026.
Do I have a motion for it? Is there a second? Been moved and seconded. All in favor? Or is there discussion? I'd just like to say, like I was saying earlier today, let's look and see from the top, what we can do to help ourselves, because this is a perfect example of what we were talking about.
And add more solar panels.
Okay.
Sunshine is free.
Ms. Grabowski, say that again, please.
I said, and add more solar panels.
Oh, okay. All right. All those in favor? All those in favor? All those opposed? Abstained? Denise, did you do? Oh, you voted. Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, President Klein.
I will now accept a motion, not everyone at once, a motion to adjourn.
Aye.
It's been moved, seconded, all in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Aye.
See you guys at 6.
Take care.
Oh, that's right, yeah.